Hello and welcome to episode 1210 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, August 25th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon, well, morning where they are, by both Justin Mason and Nick Pollack live in California. What's going on, guys?
What is happening?
How you doing? This is gonna be a clusterfuck of a podcast.
Excuse you. I'm here right now. In front of me, you're gonna curse like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You're in our house,
I know,
buddy.
I know.
I've lived with you for the last 24 hours. I know how you talk in real life.
Normal.
Yeah,
I talk
Normal. I talk normal. So, for those that don't know and aren't watching, Nick is in California, staying with Justin. What is the occasion of the visit in general? Just to visit Justin?
I mean, yes.
Which is
all
all you need for a reason, but was there any supplemental reason?
Dave Sherman, longtime
right.
staffer right here at Pitcher List. Actually, the reason we had #1 catcher rankings in like 2020 is because of Dave. Not me. I didn't know anything about
That's
that.
pretty cool. Yeah, you probably didn't know half the list.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And he's getting married in wine country, so
that's fantastic.
Justin, I was like, "Are you guys nearby?" He's like, "Are we?"
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
That's great. So we got both of you here. This is going to be fun. We are going to talk one piece of hitting, though. So we're going to scare Nick off the top, but then that'll be it. It's all pitchers after that. Pitcher news and two-start guys that we kind of figure out where we want to start them per usual. You know, some guys obviously will start in 15s, maybe some 12s, maybe some 10s. So we'll run it down, but let's start with the one bit of hitter news, and it's such a popular hitter that even Nick knows him. His name is Mike Trout. He's back. Oh, wait, psych. No, he's not. He is the literal embodiment of the Abe Simpson walking into the bar and then going right back out meme. One day, was it one day or two that he was back, Justin? I think it was literally the same day. He literally Abe Simpsoned it. So he's going back on the IL. And really, I want to start with you, Justin. I just want to spin it forward right now. What are we doing with Trout next year? He's already started to kind of trickle down the fantasy rankings this year, but still gets love. Does he take a big hit this year? Is it still a slower kind of decline because he's Mike freaking Trout? Where do we stand on Trout after another injury-riddled, disappointing season? Great stats, but just not there. What's up with Trout for you?
That's a really interesting question because I'm pretty sure I saw the Pull Hitter Discord podcast, Rob DiPietro. He's putting together like a first draft of the year.
Yeah, like 7 rounds.
Yeah, and so they've already, I saw like the first 4 or 5 rounds, and I believe Trout went in the back end of the 4th round.
Okay.
Which feels like a pretty nice discount on a guy that when he's playing, he's still an elite talent. The problem is he just doesn't play. So
for context, 22nd this year in the main event.
Mm-hmm.
And then for further context, that's going to be around the 50s, 60s area, the spot that you said. That's where Luis Robert, Cedric Mullins, Kyle Schwarber, and Adolis Garcia went this year. That's a really interesting range there. There's power speed from 3 of the guys, although Adolis didn't run, but coming into the year, we thought he'd be power speed. He only has 8 this year. And then Schwarber's kind of that pure power guy. So looking at Robert, Mullins, Garcia, actually, no, I don't think we look at Robert and Mullins because Trout doesn't run. It's maybe more of a this year's Garcia, right? Who had the power but didn't run. Trout is actually a unique player type to those other 4 there. And you think that's a pretty fair price then, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty fair price. I will probably be out on it personally just because, especially with the deeper leagues that I play in, you can't really take a lot of injury risk. And we just know at this point that Trout is
What do you know about injury risk, Justin?
True. Nick, again, hitters, not your favorite area, but you do know Trout. I know that sometimes when you're in drafts, you will lean on more of the veterans, which is actually a good strategy, by the way. You actually not being super duper in and familiar with all the latest flavors of the month probably serves you well because a lot of times it's those kind of solid veteran types. You know, Brian Reynolds is a guy that's always used, but like Mookie Betts in the early round, and Trout, at least in terms of the production, not the playing time, but he's kind of a steady Eddie. Are you still going to stick with him? He's one of the guys you get in those 4th rounds, and your hitter list is probably already run out, right? You only list like 15 pitchers when you go into or hitters. I keep saying
something
pitchers.
about it. Yeah, close
no.
enough.
So jokes aside, we know your pitcher list, but with Trout, is he somebody you would take the discount on if he's a 4th, 5th rounder in a 15-teamer?
Because for me, it's about having hitters that I don't need to deal with getting the flavor of the month, right? So I don't want to have to deal with replacing Trout.
Exactly.
And that's really the issue for me there. And what's really nice is actually in season, I have enough people here at Pitcher List that I go, okay, Scott Chu, you do hitter list. Like I'm thinking about these guys. Show me some amazing, PLV rolling charts on hitters. Like what's their swing decision? Like those are actually the things that for me make it so easy to do any sort of hitter analysis. So you see stuff like CJ Abrams making better decisions at the plate. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, cool. This is actually the growth. Gunnar Henderson, right? And it's a little bit easier these days to pick up in season, but yeah, I don't want to deal with Trout in this. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse, isn't it?
Yeah, there might be a random spike, but like if you're trying to catch the one lightning in a bottle, because I don't even want to say I believe it because it is more of a random thing, but I would not be surprised if he has a random 145 game season somewhere here in these next 3 or 4 years. I don't know when it's going to come. I'm just saying there might be a random spike here. And I don't think you chase Trout just for that random playing time spike, because what's the best predictor of injury? Previous injury. A future injury, it's previous injury. So yeah, I'm with both of you. I think I lean away. If the discount gets to a certain level, sure. But at fourth round, big 55 through 65 area there in a 15-teamer, I don't think so. I actually don't think I'm really that in on Mike Trout right now. And it's unfortunate, but I don't want to play the waiver wire game when I don't have to. And it seems like you're guaranteed to have to for like darn near half the year with Mike Trout. All right, let's get to the pitchers. Let's start with you on this one, Nick. Hunter Greene's going to go again tonight. He was originally slated, I think, for the weekend and then moved up. The reason I know that is because Brett Kennedy was on the probables, and that's who I put in my SP chart, and now they're talking Greene. His first start off the IL was a pure still ill, one of your catchphrases about guys that, coming off the IL, maybe skip them, especially if it's a long. Do you have set rules on still ill, by the way? Or is it kind of case by case? Because for me, it's case by case.
Especially with like the aces, like Max Fried showcase that it's fine, and Brandon Woodruff. What's really nice these days is still ill started because we didn't have any sort of AAA data. So we don't know pitch counts, we don't know velocities, we don't know pitch usage and success and everything. Now we do, which does make it a little bit easier, and we're able to say like, oh, this is worthwhile or not.
To see how built up they are, and then their first start back isn't going to be 30 pitches.
But then again, when against the Jays too, it was just like, okay, we avoid this. What's actually kind of nice about Hunter Greene, it's also on a nice of the other Hunter color, that is Hunter Brown, which is the funniest thing in the world to me. But it was actually a really good game pitch wise and location wise with his four-seamer and slider. PLV loved both of the pitches. All of the mistakes he threw were demolished by the Jays. Yeah. And sometimes that just happens. You throw mistakes. I think it's like a 10% rate of all pitches are about a mistake. And it's though they were just taken advantage of for whatever reason. He gets the Diamondbacks, which are way nicer. I'm starting him. I have him in my probable start tier. Okay. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think I would be too. This was an easy pass, the Toronto one, and I don't say that just because we know he has 8 earned for all the reasons Nick laid out. It was a 2-month layoff for a guy who's already volatile, has home run issues, pitching in his home park against Toronto. I think that was an easy layoff. Arizona here, I think I am back in as well, especially being encouraged because I only box scored this one, a box score scouted. I didn't get to watch the Hunter Greene one, and hearing Nick take some positives from it, Justin, does encourage me to get him back in there because it's rare to find positives in a 10-hit, 9-run, 8 of them earned, 5-homer game. And yet he did find positives there to put him back in against an Arizona team that certainly isn't as scary as they were, a month or so ago when they were cooking. So Justin, are you back in on Hunter Greene? Let's go a lower level here. Let's go straight to 10-teamers because I think Nick and I are saying 12 and 15s co-sign. What about 10s? You going for this tonight, Arizona, Hunter Greene?
I think if you have him rostered, you're probably going with him. Yeah. You just know that there is risk anytime Hunter Greene steps on the mound. I mean,
because of the homers.
The home runs are, can be an issue. And when he loses command of a pitch, the ball goes far. But I think the upside is so great, especially if you're chasing strikeouts, if you're in a situation where you're in a head-to-head playoff situation and you need those strikeouts or a win. I think you've got to probably roll with it in a 10-teamer. It's just not for the fan of heart. And this is why I don't tend to draft guys like this, because I don't want to deal with the kind of volatility that comes along with them.
Hipsters, baby. Headache-inducing pitchers stifling the entire roster.
They can be tough because their downside games are killers. A guy that this reminds me of a little bit is like Jesus Luzardo. And he had those 3 duds to open the month, Texas, Yankees, Houston. And it's like, oh, God, do I start him at San Diego? And I was talking with my friend Greg. We get the reference to Greg in early today. And he's like, I can't leave him on my bench because then it's going to be the 13 losing K game when you leave a guy like that on your bench. And that's the Hunter Greene thing. Again, I think it's easy to do a still ill and don't start him off a 2-month IL stint. But once he kind of is back upright, ready to go, even off of a dud start, I got Hunter Greene in everywhere. Let's move on to another young pitcher. Mason Miller is on rehab right now, and we know that he created a flurry when he came up. The stuff is evident and great, but you're talking about a guy who has no volume whatsoever. Even, when his first call up here, we were dealing with a guy who had like 40 innings max in a season. I don't even know if it was 40 in a season. I think it was closer to 30.
I think it was 36 and a third, if I'm
in a pro season, 36 and a third. And so, never threw over 100 even in college, 92 and 2/3. And on a team with negative win potential. Justin, is Mason Miller somebody you're going and picking up? And if so, where right now, if you're trying to scoop him for a stretch run? Is there any value there?
No.
Just flat out?
Just flat out no. I mean, he's on the worst team ever constructed in the history of baseball. They're not going to win games for him. Will he even be able to go deep enough into games?
That's my biggest thing.
To even qualify for a win. The upside on the strikeouts are nice, but if he's only going like 3 1/3, like how much upside is there really? It's 10 strikeouts, right? If you struck out all guys,
yes,
10
he goes 10 up, 10 down.
I think the downside drastically outweighs the potential upside at this point. He'll be a guy that I'll be interested in if he comes at a fairly decent price next year, but
I think he will.
Rest the way, I don't think I'm interested.
Yeah, I think I lean that way. Nick, you can disagree if you'd like, but then I want to also ask you about 2024 with Mason Miller, because he is showing some flashes here. And if he does have a decent stretch run, even if it's a bunch of 3-4 inning outings that get a bunch of Ks and flash his greatness, I'm curious how that's going to build up the price. But first question, do you disagree about chasing him for this year at all?
No. And we had a fun conversation about this when we did the live stream together. Maybe it was at the trade deadline. Maybe it was actually a live stream of what was it? Emerson Hancock's.
It was. I think it was when we were doing the Hancock.
Yeah,
stream,
that was
I believe.
fun. Oh, man,
that was a lot
more
of fun.
those. It's so good.
We gotta do them during the playoffs.
Well, if they will let us do it on playback, that would be.
I know
great.
You're working with playback on that, but that would be.
We'll get like
so
everyone
killer.
in the industry to jump into those. That's just like everybody just watch baseball together. Anyway. With Mason Miller, absolutely this year is like, okay, fine. We can't really go after this. I understand completely about the Athletics. I think they have a 30% win percentage overall, not even just their starters.
Yeah, so exactly.
You're already at a 30%, and then it goes lower than that this year, which I totally understand. There is a case to be made that if a pitcher is able to go 6 frames for the Athletics, that does get more amplified. I mean, that just suggests that they're doing well enough to be better than their generic 30% win chance. But that's all that aside. Yeah, not good for wins with Mason Miller, let alone how much they're going to push him, how much are they going to let him actually stretch out before seasons end. They might let him start, and then, as you said, Justin, 4 innings or so, right? So you don't really want to go after that. Next year.
Yeah, where are you at with Miller next year? And let's focus on 12s. That's your wheelhouse. So 12s kind of gets the best of both worlds here.
Yeah, the context is important there, right? Because 15 teamers. This is actually the most interesting thing. I really want to tie into this. I looked back at Fantasy Pros' 2023 ADP for starters about a couple weeks ago or so, and I looked at it from the perspective of the top 50 starters and then outside of it, right? And most of the guys that performed well outside the top 50 pretty much weren't drafted. There were maybe 2 exceptions that I really am reflecting on, like what could I do better on, which is Zach Eflin and a
ton of rookies, right?
And Eovaldi. Yeah, there's also Mitch Keller, and Justin Steele's another one. But even Mitch Keller didn't really do well right away. And if you draft him, you probably dropped him. Same with Kyle Bradish, even like the first month or two. I mean, Mason held on to him, but even then, should I be doing it? Right.
Like we were big Bradish guys, so we held tight, but I bet a lot of people didn't if they weren't as bought in.
And
so
the thing is, I wasn't bought in on Bradish because he wasn't changing anything until like June, and then only in June was the slider actually big. Oh, cool! I'm going to throw this and not the 4-seamer anymore, which is a bad cut action pitch. And then he changed everything, and then he just has been on this absurd run.
But we have the luxury of playing in a lot of 15-team leagues where there's just not any good options on
exactly.
the waiver wire.
But even then, you were debating it. You were debating if you were dropping Bradish or not, though, right?
Yeah, but with the 15s, you don't have to make as many pressure situations early on those guys that you believe in, right? And since we were Bradish believers, we lean toward getting him. Somebody that might have picked him because they heard us talk about him, or somebody else because liked him too.
Was up and that
they might be moving on though. Maybe they're like, okay, I believe Sporer, and Justin, appreciate the pick, but it's just not working. They move on. So those are hard. So you mentioned that the context is very important with Miller. Continue on with that.
Right.
Mason
so
Miller we're talking
what I'm
about
trying
here.
to get at is in your drafts last year, a lot of the guys that you got after like SP50, they were off your team. And even like in 15 teams, you just moved on from a lot of these because they just were not panning out. I mean, I really implore you guys to look at that ADP. I have it saved because they might overwrite it at some point just in case. But it's like, wow, yeah, all of these, like, no, I did not want to hold on to, which you can take it two ways. Of one, either that puts a larger emphasis on those first 50 and you can't rely on the upside after, or it says, hey, I should feel okay chasing more upside things after 50 because the guys I think are stable weren't.
Yes.
So I
think both are true, to be honest.
Right. It's kind of interesting.
Not even an either or.
So then if you look at Mason Miller, for me, my assessment of Mason Miller is I understand all the concerns, like how many innings is he going to throw? What is his health? 100%. What is the win potential? All of that is so valid. At the same time, his four-seamer is a very legitimate pitch. His slider and cutter are also legitimate pitches. His curveball, legit pitch. It's just about like, okay, can he throw enough strikes with those secondaries? Yes. Mason Miller will produce, will help when he starts if those things are true. And it's hard to, even if you don't get the wins on it, it's still a beneficial start for you, in my view. It's just like, okay, are we going to see that potential come to life? Are we going to see how much of it we're going to see? The way I see it is then, all right, I will take a chance in a 12-teamer. Maybe at the end of the draft, the price is going to be like nothing, I think, on Mason Miller next year. And we'll just see what is the first start. Where is he at with his arsenal at that moment? If it's not coming together, okay, maybe I move on from it. But you won't find many guys that have the potential, at least later on. So it's about the context of, are you in a position to take a chance on that or not? Do you want to go to something more Toby-esque, as I would say, that you need and you feel more comfortable in? Maybe they have a really good April schedule or something. Great, then go for that. That's all fine with me. I just want to have like a little circle that says Mason Miller. I'm very interested because the stuff is legit and the command wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be when I first saw him.
I think that's totally fair. And, things can come together quickly. Like, I don't think, I hope for their sake,
baby, let's go.
I hope for their sake, Oakland isn't as bad next year. So maybe they're more of kind of run-of-the-mill bad team, but we've seen that this has been a full-scale teardown. Justin was on that. They do more retools usually. I will say, though, you have to be careful getting too many of those Miller types. And I use my own example here because I gravitate toward guys like that. Just give me the talent. I'll figure out the wins. And I've complained about this a bunch, but I'm going to bring it up again. Second in Ks, first in WHIP, third in ERA, dead ass last in wins. And it's because of guys like that where I'll take the talent and, if they're on a crappy team, I don't care. Now, it's not all that. I've been win unlucky too, even with some of my good guys on good teams. But you have to be careful getting too many of those guys. And I myself have to protect myself from that. So I don't want to overcorrect and ignore a Mason Miller because he is very talented. And I do think that's a worthy point. And to cap Nick's point, if it doesn't work out, you cut him and you move on and you're finding the next guy. And it can work both ways though, too. It doesn't always have to be with those late gambles. It doesn't always have to be the prospect who you're trying to shoot the moon with. You mentioned the name Zach Eflin. He was a guy who seems like a boring kind of crusty dude with upside though. And one of the things is I think Tobies can have upsides. And for those that don't know what Tobies are, that's another Nick phrase where basically just kind of he's there, gets the job done. Nobody's really excited to see him. It's about Toby from The Office there. And they're just kind of your run-of-the-mill guys, your guys that you're streaming in and out on 12-teamers, 10-teamers, but they're not doing much for you. In 15-teamers, we kind of love Tobies because those are the guys that we'd rather at least keep holding instead of playing the waiver wire. But Tobies can matter too. It's just it's hard to figure out who the good Tobies are going to be. Like, who knew Eflin was going to jump that much with them?
Oh, he's a Holly now.
I didn't. He's a Holly. He's the best. He's the best Toby. Well, and then there was the Spider-Man, right? Or because of Toby Maguire.
That's still being a Toby. Holly is like, oh no, you're
on
way
another
better.
level.
Yeah,
Okay, so
right.
you're above the Tobys now.
Yeah.
Holly, also an offense reference, but it used to be the best Toby was
Yeah,
Spider-Man
there's still that.
because Toby
That's Kyle
Maguire.
Hendricks right now. I
Okay,
think it
that
is
makes sense.
Spider-Man.
That makes sense. He is pitching quite well. So Mason Miller, we'll have more info, but I just wanted to see if the two guys were, Justin and Nick, were taking him for next year. And it is kind of a case by case right now. We really have to see what he does down the stretch here, if he's even able to pitch. Speaking of a Toby who really jumped up this year, and you really couldn't have seen it, you might have just drafted him for some fill-in innings. Then all of a sudden, Merrill Kelly is out here having a wonderful season. Nick, I want to start with you on this one. He was dealing last night. Unfortunately, comes out for warm-ups in the 8th. He was ready to pitch the 8th too. Has to leave with some discomfort. Hopefully it's not too bad, but he had 7 innings of one-hit ball with 12 Ks, no walks on 86 pitches. Dude was absolutely rolling. Merrill Kelly's 34. They were going to let him roll. It wasn't a no-hitter, a perfect game or anything, but they were going to let him try to get the shutty if things didn't get too crazy there. 2.97 ERA, 113 WHIP. We know the volatility of somebody like Merrill Kelly. He's getting the best of what his skills can ERA-wise, right? He's still, at his core, a lot of the same guy he's been. The Ks are up a bit. But what do you do with a season like this as you spin it forward, especially for somebody who's going to be 35 next year, Nick? What does the great 2023 for Merrill Kelly do for you? Let's assume that the injury is minor and is not going to impact him, because obviously that would change the calculus completely. So what are you doing with Kelly next year on the heels of this excellent season?
Yeah, of course. So Renee Deckert, a staff writer here at Pitcher List, got a chance to talk to Merrill Kelly about a week ago and ask really the major two things is, hey, your 4-seamer swing strike rate has gone up for 2 years now. Used to be like an 8% pitch. Now it's like 13%, which is really big for a guy like Merrill Kelly. And then also the O swing on the changeup went up from like the 30s or so to, right? I think it's like the 5th best in the majors at 45% or something. With how much he throws it, which is insanely good, right? And so she asked him about it, and he said, "Oh yeah, so when it comes to the 4-seamer, it's really because the other secondaries were so good that I'm able to attack with it differently," which was really nice. Like it's not necessarily that he's not getting more velocity on it. It's just that he can now save it and throw it in a different place at a different time because he doesn't have to lean in on it as much. With the changeup, which I didn't know, he changed his grip last year, and it's pretty much the same pitch as it was last year. And he's just getting more comfortable with it now. And that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mix in the Arizona Diamondbacks defense being phenomenal again.
Infield and outfield, right?
Yes, big thing last year for Kelly. It was actually one of the things that I was upset about myself was I wasn't giving enough credit to defenses and their impact on pitchers. The Dodgers defense, amazing. Astros defense was amazing, and the Diamondbacks defense was amazing last year. We saw a lot of success there for Kelly because of that, right?
It can go wrong sometimes, right? Because the Cardinals defense didn't protect their guys.
Absolutely.
But there could be a balance.
The Giants were so good in 2021. We're like, oh man, they fixed all these pitchers, and it's like, oh no, their defense was just
the worst defense in the universe. So, that's a great point.
So when you look at Kelly next year, I see it in two ways. One, I do believe what he's doing is successful. It is not necessarily this good, but it is productive for your teams. And the question becomes, okay, is he going to be able to replicate everything that he does across his repertoire? Probably not. And also the defense, are we going to expect it to be exactly the same or better? I can't answer that question quite yet. My instinct is to say, yeah, Kelly is fine. Kelly is one of those guys I think I will be okay drafting around the 50s or so in my SP rankings, just because like, all right, if I don't want to chase another cherry bomb that is someone who's ultra sweet or blows up in your face of these strikeout guys, then fine, I will just go with Kelly and be happy with it. I can see him getting drafted higher than I will be going for, because I tell you every year, there's always someone like a Seth Lugo that just shows up, and it's like, well, that's just fine too. And you don't need to go after Merrill Kelly. You can find those guys if you really want to search for them. Once we know defenses are good, which ones are going to be rolling with that. So I'm not going to jump as much as other people will from Merrill Kelly.
That's the thing. We talk about this a lot with players like this, especially a 35-year-old who kind of is who he is. He has improved. Merrill Kelly's made major improvements, but he's not a transformative pitcher, you're looking for the next version of that, right? Like Zach Eflin, I'll bring his name up again. You're looking for the next guy who's going to go from somebody people used to be interested in to, we know who he is, we're moving on. Oh, he goes to Tampa Bay. That got some interest, but it really didn't shoot his price up through the roof. Eflin was still very affordable, and the people that believed in him got him. But you want to kind of find the next version of those guys instead of paying the freight on them. Justin, with Merrill Kelly specifically, all the changes that Nick outlined, and they are plentiful and real. 7% jump in K rate, the 3-point jump in or 2.5-point jump in swing strike rate is really nice. At the end of the day, his Sierra Skill Interactive ERA is only 6 points better than last year, and his FIP is actually worse. So the ERA indicators aren't really believing. Is this the case where we don't just believe in those, completely, and we look at the components more? Or are you looking at the Sierra and FIP and saying Kelly's basically kind of been the same guy and things are kind of working out for him this year? How do you assess Kelly for next year?
Yeah, I just think he's one of these guys who's going to constantly beat his underlying metrics because of what he does. And here's the thing, I kind of disagree with you guys in terms of like you're going to be looking for the next Merrill Kelly next year as opposed to this year's, because he's a guy who's always going to get devalued in the market, right? Like,
especially as he gets older too, right?
Getting
like
older,
he just won't jump.
Those underlying, numbers, the FIP and the Sierra are going to point to a lot of people just going, look, he's going to regress. He can't be this good because the underlying numbers say that, in spite of the fact that he'll beat those every year. I do worry about the defense maybe taking a step back and that really hurting him.
That is FIP and Sierra, right? They don't include the defense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So that's the difference right there.
And we just saw, like, we were just talking about the Giants, right? Like the best defense in 2021, 2022, 2023. They've been one of the worst defenses.
But they have old guys. The D-backs actually have players whose ages don't start with 3.
But the infield isn't young necessarily.
Geraldo Perdomo, I don't even know if he can drink legally.
But he's the only one. Marte is a guy who gets banged up. Jordan Lawler is going to come up at some point. We don't know what he's going to look like defensively.
Mm-hmm.
So this infield may not look the same next year as it does right now. So here's the thing. I had him as my number 50 starting pitcher. I just actually looked up my projections, and he went behind that. I was getting Merrill Kelly in like draft champions leagues and stuff like that because people just would pass on him because he's old, he's boring, and I think those kind of guys, especially when they can eat a lot of innings, are really, really valuable in a way that people don't recognize, especially for those of us who play in 15-team leagues, but in 12s as well. Because if he sucks, you can always drop him pretty easily. You're not worried about having to make up that production. But the consistency of being able to roll him out week in and week out and just get, level, consistent production is really valuable in fantasy. I don't think we talk about that enough.
No, I think there is value in some of these older guys. And like I said, finding upside in age is something that I don't think is done a lot in the fantasy circles. And you're right about maybe not finding the next Kelly because of his age. I do think you should probably try to find the next Eflin. I believe in Eflin. I like what he's done with Tampa Bay, but I do wonder if his price will shoot up because Tampa Bay gets that cosign that can really push guys too. So those two are a little different from each other. I shouldn't have really grouped them because you're right. Kelly's age will keep him cheap. Yeah. Let's go back to some younger pitchers here and talk JP France, who's been having a great season is what I would have said prior to yesterday. No, he still has been having a good season, but he demolished his ERA. He kind of gave back all the regression in one fell swoop with a 10 earned run destruction at the hands of Boston, and it literally moved his ERA, I think, almost a full run here. He went from 275 to 351. So yeah, basically took care of the full regression there really quickly. Does it change your outlook on him, Justin, with JP France? Like, are you turning to cutting him now? Or is this like the Braxton Garrett situation where he wore a tough one against Atlanta, which is better than Boston, but Boston's a good offense. So wearing a tough one against a good team, but then he bounced back and he's been great. Are you worried about France here? I mean, he had been excellent before this. There was no indication of this. This just seems like the off day of off days against a quality club. But is it enough to scare you off of France in 10s and 12s? I know in 15s, there's no world where you're cutting him. There's just not anything better out there. But what about the shallower formats? Would you move on from France?
No, I think I can't remember if it was Dusty Baker or someone within the organization that said it. They kind of let him wear this one because they needed to kind of let the bullpen rest a little bit,
And
that
unfortunately, it didn't work because he still went 2 1/3.
Yeah, so I just think this was just a bad outing. It sucks, it hurts, but I think he'll be similar to the guy that he was prior to that. I'm not super worried about France, and it's not like there are other members of the rotation that are performing so well that they need to take him out of that rotation. So
True.
I'm
having
not
trouble even filling it right now with Javier doing what he's doing.
The idea that humans aren't allowed to have a bad day, is like, what? Come on.
And that you would like turn around and cut him.
You're not allowed. I mean, you're a human. You're not a robot. You're gonna have a bad game. His four-seamer and changeup were much worse. Cutter was still great. Sliders were still really well located. But yeah, he just didn't have it that game. That's fine. He's gonna get Boston again. I guarantee you, it's going to be better against Boston.
Yep,
I know, but I mean, right?
True.
But it's like, it's going to be a better game. The unfortunate situation is that he's going to get the Rangers after. So I think every 12-team manager needs to say, look, am I actually going to go for it against the Boston next start? Am I going to do that? If you're not, which is fine, you don't have to.
True.
If that's your gut, okay, then recognize you're not going to get France for 14 days?
Yeah.
Also, it's
basically
a 6-man rotation.
2-week time frame.
It is the Athletics after, and you're definitely going to want to do France there, regardless of what happens in the next 2 starts. If France is making that start against the Athletics, just do it. Everyone has valleys in the season. Just because you have 2 bad starts in a row, Bryce Mo then dominates again. Like, who cares? It happens all the time. So you're going to start him there. Just make a decision if you are going to go against the Red Sox now. I would. If you're not, then move on, because that's a third of the season left. More 40%. So that's a huge impact, and you just got to make the decision now.
Yeah, if you have 2 starts that you're definitely not using France, maybe there is a drop if you find somebody you really like, but he probably still isn't your worst guy. So I might be just treating JP France as a team streamer, which means I'm keeping him, but maybe skipping a start or 2. He is headed to Fenway, like you mentioned, and then Texas, like you said, too. So 2 toughies, but I'm not completely running from France. Yesterday does not invalidate all of the great work he had done for 18 starts. Like, it's just... Don't do that. Like, that's bad fantasy management, in my opinion. So hopefully we don't see people cutting him. Well, actually, if they want to, they can. Do it in my league. Cut him. I'll go pick JP France up. Let's talk another young guy and stay with you here, Nick. Ryan Pepiot. He got a double opener. By the way, we've been seeing double openers a lot more. I don't know if there's something behind it or what, but like, we know who the primaries are going to be a lot these days, and we're seeing 2 guys come in before them. Sometimes it's like 2 of the same hand, sometimes it's 1 right, 1 left. I haven't been able to figure out any sort of pattern, but that did happen for Pepiot yesterday. Caleb Ferguson opened, and then Ryan Yarbrough was next. So 2 lefties before he got 4 strong innings, 3 hits, a run, 6 Ks, and 0 walks. And I will invoke the name of my friend Greg yet again, because he was on Pep early, bringing up that he had really improved the control in spring, and now he has continued it throughout the minor leagues and his first 2 starts here in the majors. So even if you add it all up, it's still a small sample of AAA spring training and his 2 starts in the majors, but it is a major change for Pepiot, where he had like 35, 40 grade control. Now all of a sudden, dude's walking like 2 per 9 over the course of the season here, if you add up all the stuff that he's done. Are we seeing a tangible change here from Ryan Pepiot? Have the Dodgers done it again with a legit prospect here, Nick? Ryan Pepiot.
I'll be honest with you. Before I talk about another pitcher, I just got to make sure at some point we're going to talk about Cole Reagans. I don't see this on the thing, but
we absolutely can.
Any moment. Any moment. Because
any chance I get to bring up Cole Reagans, I'm interested in. So yes, I'll put him on the rundown next.
Good.
Yes.
I feel like I'm going to get outvoted no matter what I say here.
About who? Reagans?
Oh
my God.
Oh, you got some garbage takes? I mean, yeah, right. We'll stomp those out.
I wanted to make you guys.
With Pepiot, I led with him in the roundup over the weekend in his previous start, because I love the fact that now he's throwing his changeup for strikes again. When he first came up from the minors last year, everyone was like, oh man, it's like an 80 grade future changeup. And I was like, this is great. So exciting. Then he went, I think, like 1 over 20 whiffs on it and just could not throw a strike. It was like a 40% strike rate. You need to have like a 60% plus to be a good pitch.
To be an 80 grade pitch, you got to be doing a lot better than he was.
And it was great over the weekend. It was really, really strong offering. Also, the slider was doing effective things. I was like, wait, hold on a second. Being a guy that's in position for a win for the Dodgers is so good. I've really said, I think the Rays, the Astros, and the Dodgers are the three organizations that know how to treat pitchers. Now, I've not given them the benefit over the years, like Eflin going, as we were talking about before, Lance Lynn going over to the Dodgers. Like, I haven't been doing that. And Pepiot, I think, or Pepiot, I can never.
Pepiot.
It's Pepiot.
It's unbelievable. I can't
We
do
looked
this.
it up last
I know.
night,
I made
yeah.
it G Pepiot, as in like Geppetto for my roundup yesterday. I still couldn't do it. Okay.
Pepiot.
Pepiot. Oh my gosh. He is in that situation with the Dodgers right now. I think they figured him out a little bit, which is great. He's going to get these opportunities. I don't think it's going to be Emmett Sheehan, honestly, a whole lot. I think it's going to be Ryan instead. With Gonsolin being on the shelf. I think this is something really nice to steal here in 12 teamers, as he's just getting completely overlooked.
Yeah, I was hard targeting Pepiot. I mentioned my win troubles earlier. Hard targeted him in the main last week. Got him for 4, tied with somebody. So one of the top 3 teams, because I'm in 4th. One of those top 3 teams went for him as well at 4, and I got him, and I feel pretty good about that. Unfortunately, I got Stone Garrett too, and he broke his leg. I feel so bad for him. But yeah, Pepiot, I mean, he does look different, and when that control in place, and the credit that we give to the Dodgers just by default for how well they develop pitchers, the win potential, I think he's a must pick up right now, especially if you're chasing wins, because if he's getting an opener, that really improves your win chance, even if he's going 3-4 innings a pop. But I think he can go 5 down the stretch. Justin, thoughts on Pepiot? Anything to add before we move on to the man, the myth, the legend, Cole Reagans?
Yeah, nothing much to add because you guys, I think, said it all. As long as he's getting that opener, it's my only concern is if they decide to like put him traditional starter and then he goes 4 and you don't get that win potential. But I mean, you guys nailed it. Any pitcher that is showing any signs of life on the Dodgers right now, I want my lineup.
Yeah, I will say, if he does go traditional starter for Pep, I'm not as scared as I would have been reviewing him before the year started when I had the big control concerns, because now he can maybe get 5 on a limited pitch count, whereas before I was like, he's barely going to get 3 because he walks the yard. But so few walks now. He's been a different guy. Really like Pepiot. All right, let's talk Cole Reagans. I love this guy, man. And obviously, I'll take any opportunity I can to talk about Cole Reagans. If I can. I feel like I can do my victory lap at this point. I was in on him early. Love Cole Reagans. Didn't know he was going to get traded to KC and explode there. Part of the reason I liked him was he was with Texas, but they didn't really have room for him. They make the trade for Chapman, and they trade Reagans, and boom, he instantly finds his footing with the Royals. He's been fantastic. Nick, I'll let you take the lead here because we have talked about him quite a bit, but I love what Cole Reagans is doing. I really believe in this. I know it's a small sample, but talk to us about why we should be believing in this 35-inning run from Cole Reagans in KC.
He is a unicorn. It is absolutely astonishing what Cole Reagans does. And by the way, I want to make like a shirt that is, I want to call him Cole Rayguns, because that's the way that I can remember it. It's not Reagans. Ragans. It's not Ragans. See, I can't even remember that one anymore. So it's great. And I just want to say pew, pew, pew every single time he does well.
Do you know what his middle name is?
What?
Gatlin.
Is that right?
Like a Gatlin gun?
Really? No, of course not.
I swear to God.
No
I swear to God.
That's incredible.
I swear on my life.
Yeah.
So
okay. So Ray Guns.
Guns.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay. He's so good. So the story for me with Reagans is last year, he actually had some starts with the Rangers, and I love the fact that he was around the zone. He wasn't necessarily dominating with it, but I thought of Cole Hamels because of the changeup down and away, and then trying to go upstairs and in against right-handers with fastballs and cutters inside of it. And I love that approach. I mean, especially as a lefty, you're going up in the opposite corners against right-handers, and if you can do that, you'll figure out lefties eventually. Just throw a decent breaking ball, and you've got him dead as a lefty, right? And that's the easiest thing, I think, for lefties to develop. But it was just, he was nibbling too much. He wasn't really pristine with that command. Also was at 92. Then he shows up and has this 4-inning relief appearance out of nowhere in like April, I want to say, for the Rangers. And he was sitting, I want to say 96, 97. Yeah. And it was
two-time TJ guy.
And it was absolutely just, what? Why? And then I remember thinking, oh my gosh, he's gonna get opportunities. The Rangers, you have DeGrom, you got Heaney, you've got Eovaldi. He's gonna get this. I'm so excited. It would never come. It was just never happening.
Stupid Dane Dunning.
And then all of a sudden, I know, right? Oh my gosh.
No, I love Dane Dunning.
It drove me nuts. And then all of a sudden this trade happens with Aroldis Chapman. And I'm like, this is it. This is it. He's going to go to KC. He's going to get this opportunity because who's on is the Royals? Like, what are they doing here, huh? And he doesn't start except for a doubleheader where it was so funny. That was the day that Alec Marsh had 11 strikeouts.
Oh,
and everyone's freaking out about Alec Marsh.
Yeah.
You can go back on my timeline and you can see me be like, everyone's freaking out about Alec Marsh, but I'm freaking out about Cole Reagans.
They're on the wrong
because
guy.
He's spotting his fastballs. He's throwing the velocity. I think it was actually like 97, 98 mile per hour fastballs then.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh boy, let's go. And we did our trade deadline stream, Sporer.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan Yarbrough gets dealt the greatest trade
Pirate
of the deadline. And I'm freaking out because Cole Reagans is going to start now.
Because the door is now open for young Cole.
And he is just brilliant. I mean, it was only 94.5, I think, in the first one that he made. I was like, okay. I mean, it's still really, everything was great.
Yeah, because even that was
5.
Even that was way up from last year because I mentioned that he's a 2-time TJ. So Cole Reagans throwing 92 last year. People were probably like, who is this uninspiring lefty? The people that kind of had more knowledge of his history were like, no, there's more in the tank. And as he gets healthier, the velo can go up. And he came to spring this year at 96. And from the left side, that's crazy.
Oh, man. So it was a little bit lower. But I remember in the round being like, he gets Boston next. I don't care. Like, this is insane because the command of his four-seamers upstairs. 5 pitches. It's not like there's so many times I get excited about a young pitcher and it's like, oh, he has such a good slider though. This is good. I even look at Reed Detmers. My excitement about him is because he was throwing 95 upstairs, sliders inside, and then this curveball for strikes essentially is like the Justin Steele method, but also having a curveball in the zone. And I was like, oh, this could be really good because that 3-pitch mix is great. It's 5 for Cole Reagans.
5 real pitches.
And it's a better fastball than Detmers, right? He shows up against Boston. That video of me watching his start, those were real noises. I wasn't embellishing my excitement.
It's a great video, by the way.
For
on
every
YouTube.
single one. It's just, he can throw any one of them at any time. It's a four-seamer that dominates right-handers up and inside at 98. He threw 101 in his last start. No
He's
one
unbelievable.
From the left side throws 101.
That isn't named Randy Johnson or Aroldis Chapman. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. As a starter, it's Randy Johnson back in the day when James Paxton threw his no-hitter against the Jays.
Yep.
I remember him throwing 100 up and into Josh Donaldson in like the 8th or 9th inning and just being like, this is absurd.
So
no one does this. Cole Reagans is just doing it now. And then he has a cutter at 94 that he goes back inside with. Oh, yeah, and a changeup that has a 23% swing strike rate. Oh, yeah, a slider that is just devastating down and in. And then this curveball that is like, what, a 50% cold strike rate? Like,
casual.
This doesn't exist. He is a unicorn. And to see him just explode like this out of nowhere is... I mean, sure, I understand the health, the longevity. We don't know.
But we don't really know that about any pitcher. That's the thing.
Right.
Sure. And I've stressed this throughout the year.
Cheap.
Like,
just go get him.
Yeah. So let's talk next year then. And let's get both of you in on this.
Here you go, Mason.
If he continues like this,
and
has a great September, but where's it going to go to? Because if he's this good, why is it a problem? I understand what you're saying. Like he could go sky high.
You two are the problem. You were going to ruin the price on Cole Reagans.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
I mean, I'll probably still be in on it.
What's too high? What's too high first? Let's set a baseline of like what's too high for Cole Reagans.
Like, there are so many good young pitchers right now that will probably overshadow him just based on their volume in 2023. That maybe he won't jump over the Bryce Millers and the Brian Woos and the Andrew Abbotts, and he will still be affordable. But my guess is going to be around pick 150. Especially with all the hype that's around him, and that's 10th round in a 15-team league.
That's Tyler Glasnow, Pablo Lopez, Chris Bassett, Kodai Senga this year. Kodai Senga hadn't pitched in the majors. Tyler Glasnow,
that's Glasnow after he got hurt.
Good for 12 innings a year.
Yeah.
Bassett, established, veteran.
But I think Pablo Lopez is like a really, really good kind of example of like an ADP comp where you look at Lopez and you go, man, he has the stuff to be a top 20 starter. I just don't know if he's gonna
Dustin May
be
went
that guy.
136. Like,
And that was
over.
a huge mistake. And we
I mean,
said that at the time.
It
So,
wasn't the time to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys know Papa. Love that.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, you know, you're
exactly.
talking like he's gonna have maybe
Well,
90 innings, Cole Reagans, and so it is a small sample to jump that high. But I don't know. I'm looking around this pick area, and if you're right, Justin, that he is in that 140 to 160 sort of range, I'm not sure I have probably like Brady Singer was there based off of his run last year. You know, Tristan McKenzie with all the health concerns that he has. He might have already been hurt actually. No, because yeah, he had a min pick of 63. So the injury had already struck with him on this main event ADP. So, you know, I like the Pablo Lopez thing. I can't find somebody that had that small of a sample. That's why I brought up
so
Senga
weird.
hadn't pitched. It's hard, but like, what's not to believe in it?
Well,
I know it's a
okay.
small sample, but there's a lot to love.
Right. So I think I mean the relative comps there are interesting because like with Pablo Lopez it was about more of health. I think like the floors of the other guys way higher than we're going to see of all of the guys going around that range this next year, because next year's like 10 to 15 young pitchers that we all love, right?
Half of them on Cleveland.
And something, and something that I'm thinking about a lot with it is one of the traps that I get into, and it's the hardest thing that I do personally, is I see how these guys can be incredibly successful. It's just they're in this middle tier of their command where we don't know if they're going to be consistent with their arsenal enough. Some guys just do it, and it's amazing, and it's great, and we're just so happy that those are the guys that really take those leaps and become consistent and phenomenal for your teams. While, you know, for example, good example here is Strider versus Javier. Javier took a massive step back with his command, wasn't able to throw slider strikes. Strider kept it completely and was amazing, right? And he's just one of the best pitchers in the majors, obviously SP1 right now. So, I mean, obviously a little bit different there, but that's the kind of idea. And then you see like Gavin Williams, can he get his secondary pitches? Can he get his curveball and slider consistent? We didn't see it yesterday, and that's going to be the issue from Tanner. Same with Tanner Bybee. Same with Bobby Miller. Is he going to take the leap with his curveball and his slider? Yuri Perez is looking like he can do that, but he's still also going to be 2021 next year. And I don't really know what we're going to see out of that. This is the case for all these young pitchers. So Cole Reagans, I do want to say, I believe more in with his command. Against the Cardinals wasn't amazing command, right? That was a big weakness of that. He leaned too much in the secondaries out of the zone and didn't lean in on the fastball enough in that one.
I love the bounce back in Wrigley after that.
The thing is, though, it wasn't until the 5th and 6th inning.
No, but he fought. And when he was pushed in the corner, instead of giving, you know, he got beat a bit by the Cards and then battled against the Cubs.
5 pitches. He's not just gonna be like, all right, here are my fastballs, go ahead. He will go 3-2 changeups all the time. He will be like, I'm just gonna throw sliders at 2-0-2-1. I don't care. I love that about him, and I feel like over time that should get better. And I saw Reed Detmers have amazing command, and I'm like, well, this is who he's gonna be. And then he didn't, because he's young, and this is what happens. Nick Lodolo, Hunter Greene, same kind of thing. I know injuries played the role there too, but this is the kind of story that it is with these guys. So it's going to be so difficult. This entire offseason, it's going to be all these young guys. Who are your favorite ones? I love that we get another month of Cole Reagans. It's going to be an amazing schedule too. The Cubs are like the toughest team he gets for the next like 3 weeks or something ridiculous.
Yeah, being in the Central really helps.
Yeah.
I want to invoke another a name that I already did earlier and suggest that maybe Justin's a little too light on the ADP prediction, especially if Reagans has another month like this, because Jesus Luzardo, after 100 innings, he went 118. And you mentioned Reed Detmers, 130, 133. So, you know, you look at young guys like that. I mentioned the Dustin May thing, 136. So you look at those 3 young guys, everyone bought in on their upside. Nick Lodolo, 117. I wonder if maybe you're selling it short and Reagans ends up higher, which again makes it a little bit more of a dicier proposition. But I could see him up in that range with some of the younger guys.
I think the difference, I mean, Detmers is probably the closest comp in terms of like the ADP comparison, because May and Luzardo, top tier prospects for a really long time. People had been excited about them for years, and so like I think that they got pushed up closer to that tier that we saw a couple years ago with McClanahan and Manoah when they were all around like the 110s. So maybe he is in like the 130 to 140 kind of area. I still think I'm buying. I think.
Oh, I am too.
And here's the thing, like for me, if you play in an auction league, it's going to be really fun to see, because, you know, we saw it, like Nick and I were in the same Tout Wars league, and we got to a certain part of the draft, and that tier of pitcher went way too effing cheap. And so if you're smart with your auction
Gray,
bidding,
baby.
yeah, he got Sonny Gray. I got Tyler Glass now, and I'm trying to remember the other guy that I got for very cheap. I just can't off the top of my head. But I think that's going to be a really fun tier to dip in multiple times to, right?
Yeah.
And I'm definitely going to be toying with the idea of doing something like pocket aces and then waiting for that tier for my third and fourth pitchers.
Yeah.
So
I think that makes a lot of sense there. Nick, did you want to add something on?
Yeah, the one thing I really want to mention with a lot of this is, I mean, I'm obviously a little bit different in the sense that I focus so much more on the arsenal and like what they do, and if Cole Reagans the next month showcases that he still has these 5 pitches that are all competitive, not like one is like a 40% strike rate, maybe he develops that one or something. If this is truly like a 5-pitch mix, the floor on Reagans's productivity is way higher. I mean, it's something that to really consider with this. Like with Dustin May, the biggest hesitation I had was, well, it's a sinker that doesn't get whiffs, and he needs to still develop the 4-seamer. We saw a brief moment of the breaking ball and cutter whiffs, but honestly, before he got hurt this year, it wasn't really showing up much until close to the TJ that he had, right? And with Luzardo, he has 3 that are great. And it's been really annoying to see this. Like Alex Fast keeps sending me texts about how bad he is. And it's annoying because we have this whole wager. He had him at like 61. I had him at 31 in the preseason. I'm like, how could you possibly do 61?
61.
But it was because of the health, and he didn't really believe the stuff as much. And the 4-seamer doesn't grade out as well as I think it should. But what I'm getting at there, though, that's still just 3. That's still 3 pitches, right? And you look at the other ones, it's Tanner Bybee has a good slider. The other 3 pitches, I think, still need work. Gavin Williams, it's a really amazing 4-seamer, and the slider and change and curve need to be a little bit better. With Reagans, it's like, these are all amazing. The biggest knock that I'm surprised we haven't brought up, it's the Royals. And the
I saw
Royals,
someone in the chat say that too.
Bobby Witt has ruined my day too much at short. It's driving me crazy. He had Reagans around 2 hits in his last start against Athletics. First was a change that they shouldn't have thrown in the first batter of the game, and it still bothers me. It gets a little bit too love happy with the changeup, and it's annoying.
Yeah.
Second was a grounder to Witt that is like a routine ball that Witt made so much harder. He charged it and threw it way too soon. Perez tried to slap tag it, didn't happen, and he called it a hit. Any other shortstop, that's an error. Or
they don't call errors anymore.
Yeah, and it stinks. And it's like, that's a 1-hit game from Reagans. How dare you make this even worse?
Dare you do
Oh
that
my gosh. So I mean, that is a thing. And also the Royals, I don't trust as much as organizations. I actually think of
I agree with that.
5 organizations that I don't like how they do pitching development. It's the Rockies, it's the Nationals, it is the Royals, it is the Angels. And then I kind of want to throw in Pittsburgh, but they're getting better. I don't know. And I don't know if the Royals are going to have the right conversations with Reagans about pitch mix and saying, look, like, you're getting too happy with that changeup. You should be focusing on this 4-seamer more, or so on and so forth. So
maybe he's one of those self-starter types that can
maybe it is. I mean,
so I don't know.
So stupid good.
I'm hoping.
Oh my gosh.
So we'll see. On the other side of that, because you're not wrong to bring that up, and like I said, chat was hitting on that with regards to Royals development. On the counter, at least a little bit, is the park and outfield defense is really strong. So there's 2 elements there that are at least okay for being part of KC. But I totally agree. I would trade a good park and good outfield defense for better pitching development. But we got to go with what we got right now, and at least there are some positives. And the division, yes. The division, even if the Tigers get a bit better, even if the Guardians spend more than $5, like, it doesn't matter. Like, even if a couple teams got a little bit better, the Central's still going to be a spot where you want to pitch. So bottom line, love Cole Reagans. Can't wait to see how this final month goes and where his price goes. Going to be eager to see if he goes in those first 7 rounds of the early draft that Rob DiPietro and crew are
Corbin
doing.
Burns 2020, right? Is that what we're looking at?
God.
Ooh.
Don't say stuff like that, because it
No,
ruins
but I mean, I'm trying to think of like a guy that had like, it's going to be like 7 or 10 starts or something.
Yeah, that's a really good. I mean, that's a really good comp, but that's gonna blow the ADP out of the water.
Yeah, I couldn't find
There's no such thing as a Pollack push. Stop
the
this.
best I
Well,
could find.
it's
That's
not so
not
much
true.
a Pollack push, but I think there is a Pollack push.
No.
But it's the fact that people are going to compare. If we get a few more starts like that, people are going to start going, well, he could be Corbin Burns-esque, and then he starts going in the 4th, 5th round.
Okay, no, that's not. No.
And that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I can't endorse it. Unfortunately, I want
Yeah.
to, but like if you're turning down Max Fried for Cole Reagans, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I wouldn't even do that.
I want
and
Max
love-
Fried and Cole Reagans.
Yeah, well,
Exactly. Yeah, give me both of them lefties. All right, let's move on to some two-step guys here and talk about where we're going to start them, if anywhere. And of course, situations are going to matter here. That's why I'm going to bring up this first guy, because normally you say, "What are you talking about? No way, I'm going to start Charlie Morton at Colorado and at the Dodgers." But if you're win-seeking and you can take the whip pain, is there a world where you start him, Justin?
If I am straight up win seeking, I guess I could, but the underlying numbers on Morton have been scary all season long.
Yeah, his whip's terrible.
And I'm just waiting for the disaster starts. I think one of these, or maybe even both of these, could be. So if I'm protecting my ratios at all, and I want to implore people think ratios don't move this late in the season. They absolutely do. And you can hurt yourself a ton by making poor streaming decisions right now. So I would probably pass on Charlie Morton going to Colorado and the Dodgers. But if you are win seeking, I totally understand it. But
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up that he is on an 18-inning scoreless streak. Granted, that was all against New York, twice the Mets, once the Yankees, with 25 Ks in those 18 innings, 9 walks, 9 hits. So again, he is white hot right now, 3 wins in those games. But you're going to Colorado, which is always tough, especially if you allow hits and give them some free passes along with it. And then the Dodgers are always difficult. So it is tough. But yes, if you are specifically win seeking and your ratios can't really be hurt by a potential bomb, like if you do have some good distance, or if you're just really okay to just go for wins and you're hoping to at least get one here, I can get it. But that's really the only spot I can get it with Morton right now. Nick, what say you?
Yeah. Oh boy, it's 139 whip this year.
That's the thing. It's
oh
been
my
bad
God.
even
It
apart from everything else. It gets hidden by the 3.37 ERA. These guys skate in fantasy. They do damage to teams because people are so ERA focused. And there's been 13 wins too. So I don't want to say there's been no value, but 138 whip is punishing.
I lost my season in 2011. I think it was 2011 because I started Jeff Smarsja the entire year. It was a 134 whip that year. I think it was.
Whip. Yeah,
And this is why he's called Loose Lips to me. His nickname is Shark. And who's the best shark? It's Jaws, right?
Jaws, yeah.
And if you are an ineffective shark, you have loose lips, and they sink ships. So there you go. That is why my nickname was
never understood
Loose
that
Lips for Smarsja. I just always had this vendetta against him. But yeah, whip is a big thing.
Smarsja's a really nice dude.
I'm sure he is.
He's a good
Loose
pitcher
Lips
too.
is just,
Where do you think Charlie Morton's ranked this year among starters on the Razzball
it's got to be
Player
super
Radar?
high. I think it's 13 wins.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
also,
has him
it's
as
like
a top
in
20,
15th in
27
strikeouts or
right
something
now.
like that. It's like
Yeah, Justin's really close. Yeah, you guys are right. So with the 13 wins, 157 Ks and 142 innings, 337 ERA, he is outrunning the whip at 138, being the 21st pitcher. So better than I thought. So maybe the whip isn't as crushing as I thought. But if your team construction is wrong, it can certainly be hurting you more than you think. So I
mean,
do think that those guys can get overlooked. But in this case, Morton is doing enough everywhere else to really still be good.
It's actually
Very
part of the
difficult.
reason I overlooked Senga for a bit because the whip was
Yes.
so bad. And
same.
I turned around in July. I was like, wait a second. No, those strikeouts are just so big. And he's done much better since. So
Yeah, it's just so worth it. Let's stick with another old guy and stay with you, Nick, here. Chris Sale. He gets Houston and then KC and then he heads out to KC. And I will reiterate, KC's been sneaky decent at the dish lately. They haven't been piling up a bunch of wins, but they've been getting some hits and doing some things. And we're still kind of building back up on Sale's pitch counts. Now, he did get to 80 last time out against the Astros. 5 innings, 4 runs, 9 Ks. He gets the Astros again. And then KC, are you starting Chris Sale in 10s and 12s? I think 15s you got to, so I'm not sure.
yeah,
It's
right.
really
So
a
I mean, with a
question.
lot of these guys, if you have them, I think you just do it. With Sale, it's weird because he was down to 91.6 and then he topped out at 93.6, I think. And then he ramped up in his last one, which is good to see. It was against the Astros. He gets them his second time, which is just the most annoying thing. But he ramped up to 95, 96 by the end of that, which is very good to see. Also, slider command was insanely good against the Astros. I mean, we're talking like
He did have
every
9
around.
Ks.
He did a full around donut of the strike zone. We're avoiding the middle completely. I mean, you have to do this. And yeah, it's KCR. They're better, but you're going to start Chris Sale against that one. 2 steps to me are generally in your favor if you're doing weekly leagues versus singles. So yeah, you
lean toward them. You're kind of looking for reasons not to with some of these guys. And we'll get to some guys that are a bit more challenging. Justin, do you have anything to add or to the contrary on Sale?
No, I agree.
Right, next guy then, Jameson Taillon. Again, we're probably looking. I think we're looking even at the deeper leagues here. Milwaukee and at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's cooled, but you can still get got by them. And Taillon, he showed the precariousness of pitching. 5 no-hit innings. He's cooking. Boom, Kerry Carpenter, grand slam out of nowhere, totally ruins the start. 5 2/3, 4 runs, bleh, kind of outing. And he's been very up and down with a lot of his downs being very painful for Jameson Taillon this year. So that's not an easy 2-step. Milwaukee and at Cincinnati. Are you doing that anywhere, Justin?
I mean, in a 15-team league, you may have to just because there's so little on the waiver wire and you're probably, win seeking and strikeout seeking. Outside of that, though, I'm probably staying away from Cincinnati in Cincinnati. I just think that is too dangerous of a start that can really, really damage your ratios. So 15-team leagues, probably anything smaller than that, no.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm much different than that. Nick, any love for Jameson Taillon in
he
the shower
squeezes
format?
out the most he can from his arsenal. He did well in that start, right? Before that grand slam,
Looked great through 5. Yeah, and
his,
then
sweeper and curve. Yeah,
or no,
Sweeker,
it was singles.
I want to say Sweeker and Queep. No, his curve and sweeper have improved over the last month or so. And it's kind of interesting. He in some ways has gone back to tying back to those Yankee games of high 4-seamers getting whiffs again, which he's completely gone away from. And if he's able to get that curve and sweeper working, there is a chance against Milwaukee, certainly, and still against the Cincinnati Reds. But to see a guy that has to perform at his peak to be good and not great is generally something I do avoid.
Yeah,
so
because
in
the
12
downside
teamers,
is
I would
severe.
rather try to secure at least one really good outing instead.
There's almost certainly somebody better in 12s. As Nick points out, 15s might be a little dicier, but if I can get away from Jameson Taillon in 15s, I would like to do that too, but you might not be able to. You might turn to Cincinnati in the shallower formats because these guys have some availability in the shallower formats, not in 15s or even really 12s, but Andrew Abbott and Brandon Williamson both get a trip to the Giants and then they get the Cubs. Wait, what are you doing, Nick?
This is easy. Of course, yeah, you're doing this.
Okay.
We're
doing this.
In 10s and 12s?
I mean, Williamson
go?
has improved his
Yeah, let's
changeup.
focus on Williamson because Abbott, I think, is. I just threw him in, but go with Williamson then.
I think Abbott's pretty close to a must start at this point.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right.
I would agree.
Which is interesting because Abbott had 2 terrible starts, 2 okay
we
ones.
talked about him early.
One. Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of funny to me, the whole story this year of Abbott. Like when he first showed up, I was like, okay, he's good, but he's not like 7 innings, 12 Ks, guys. Like, let's stop calling him like Strider. It's kind of weird, and it's going to regress. He's not going to have like a 92% left on base rate and all this whatever stuff. And then he got really bad. Everyone's like, oh, we get rid of Abbott now. I'm like, no, why do we have to swing pendulums?
Yeah.
No, because that's when the stuff looked better. When the numbers got worse, because he had the no.
Up.
Yeah,
and I'll say I was completely wrong on Abbott. When he came up, I thought he was the guy I wanted the least out of all these rookie pitchers.
Sure, I wasn't a big fan either.
And now I think he's the guy I want most.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Pretty close to it.
Interesting.
Outside of Bobby Miller and Yuri Perez, probably above him still, but
Gavin Williams, I think. No.
I take that back. Complete.
Yeah,
and I think in
Cole Reagan's though.
Yeah, Cole Reagan.
Reagan's
not a
Cole
rookie.
Reagan's
So,
overstride.
He's a rookie in my heart.
Yeah, but I think Abbott has really shown that he has my biggest fear was his command in Cincinnati, and I think what he has shown with what he can do on the mound is that he can limit the mistakes that aren't going to hurt him in that park. And I think I'm going to be really, really high on Abbott next year.
Interesting. I don't know how much I love his repertoire. Like the 4-seamer, I think it's good. I think it is.
It's good.
Yeah.
You're right.
But it's, I mean, when he gets it upstairs, but there are games where he's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to keep it downstairs. Like, oh, this isn't good. Oh, well, whatever.
Not worried about that heavy fly ball rate in Cincy?
Well, yeah, maybe I should be leaning on that more. I mean,
that's my concern for next year with Abbott. I am with y'all that he's an easy start right now.
This is an interesting thing I think about a lot is, and I'm sure you guys have, like, Nick, you're being an idiot. Having a high fly ball rate innately is not terrible in a home run park. And I know that sounds crazy to say.
No, go ahead and extrapolate.
If you're getting super high launch angles constantly, that's good. That's fine. Sure, it means, oh, but you allow more fly balls. Well, if you're allowing a lot of ground balls, it often means also the fly balls that you allow are not pop-ups. Yes. And those are going to also go out. So
pop-ups are auto outs too. So
right.
They don't,
and they're much better. That's why you see low BABIPs on guys with fly balls, right?
Exactly.
So I'm not inherently scared because of that. Now, if you're saying, Nick, it's also close to line drives, I'm like, well, then there's the issue. So I got to look more into Abbott this offseason. I'm kind of happy just kind of ignore my full analysis for next year until I see the next month.
Yeah, because right now he is an auto start.
Right.
I agree with that. And it isn't a crazy line drive rate. It's 20% right now. So it is a lot of fly balls. I'd like to see maybe a few more infield flies from Abbott because those are auto outs. So that is a great point about fly balls doesn't automatically mean run for the hills. There are fly ball profiles that work very well. They keep the BABIP down, like you say. They get those automatic outs with the pop-ups. And yeah, they'll allow occasional homers. But if he keeps the walk rate relatively in check too, then he's not allowing those multi-run homers, and that's always the concern there. Do you have a last thought on Abbott?
Mason is going to the wrong site to look up Abbott's stuff. That's all I'm saying.
I'm a company man.
Oh, he didn't go to Pitcher List.
I made it so that you can do a podcast quickly
in front of him. I'm using Fan.
If you wanted to talk about a player on a podcast, especially a pitcher, I made it so that you can do all the things as quick as it's fine. It's fine. It's cool.
Pretty fast.
Company man, I appreciate it.
It is pretty fast. Anything else on Williamson or Abbott before we move on?
Fastball velocity increased like a month ago and it's been much better with the fastball and cutter. But the biggest hesitation I had was, does he have a third pitch? And the changeup's actually been good.
Yep.
So I'm down definitely against the Giants. The Cubs are obviously a little bit better, but I think if it means that you have to start for the Giants one, I'm still doing it in 10-12s.
That's exactly it. Is just because I used Fangraphs instead of Pitcher List.
You know it's a terrible offense.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
What?
You do know.
There's no slander. I don't do slander for the sake of slander.
I do.
Well, that's the difference between me and you, Mason.
You're so rude. Call him Ned Slanders. Moving on.
Michael Kopech. I love that so much. I'm the one that normally does this. Kopech, absolutely not. Stop this.
Yeah. No.
Stop this. This fastball is so bad.
Okay, so
I really just wanted to taunt Justin for not cutting him months ago like I did.
I may use him in a 15
Why?
This week.
Why?
Because it's
you like pain.
Don't care.
A really good place.
The idea that like Kopech's gonna be saved by the park is ridiculous to me.
He just threw 4 scoreless
with so many walks and got
4 whole
so
innings.
Lucky.
Wow.
He had to leave with cramping. He's fine though.
He is not.
So lucky. He is not fine.
His stuff has been
move
so
closer
bad
to the mic and protect yourself from starting him.
Yeah,
you should have cut him
you
2 months ago.
Shouldn't start him, but like I said, in 15-team leagues right now, especially leagues with IL spots, there are not many options out there. So you have
with IL spots.
I'll find one. I'll find one for you.
Me too. I think I would rather start JP
You're better
Sears.
off benching him and having that spot open.
Well, you're not allowed to do that.
So then I would find someone that effectively is that, who's on the IL that you slot in.
I would take an Oakland guy because like all the Oakland guys are usually available.
Sears.
I would take Sears.
Sears isn't
better
available.
than Kopech.
He's not available.
Yes, he is.
It's not available.
Paul Blackburn.
Not available. I'm streaming Paul Blackburn this
Adrian
week.
Martinez.
Okay, well there you go.
He is available. What about Jesse Schultz? What about teammate Jesse Schultens?
Schulten's not available.
He's available online.
This is what I mean. 15-team leagues. It's just a nightmare.
Okay, we're gonna look at it after watch. We're gonna do it. Are you talking about Tout, by the way?
No.
Okay.
No, he's talking about.
I can't help you there.
No,
I'm not allowed to.
I wouldn't expect you to, especially since you're so far at the bottom of the standings.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm trying to
I will
tell
say
you.
this.
You're welcome.
I will say this. Justin's point about 15 teams that have ILs specifically, so you're keeping a bunch of guys, from being on the waiver wire. Yeah, it might be tough to find somebody else. I still don't want to start him. I'd rather pick up Kyle Harrison.
Oh God, no! Why would you? No, I would much rather start Michael Kopech than
Kyle
Harrison has a better fastball than Michael Kopech.
That was a
He's
double
also
trigger
only
because
gonna
he's
throw 2 innings and give up a home run.
First of all,
Good,
it was
can't hurt
over
me.
3. Yeah, and that's also better than Michael Kopech. Okay,
correct.
we're gonna
It's
move on.
not,
We're
though.
Yeah,
moving
we are
on.
moving
It
on.
is.
We are moving on. Reese Olson gets the Yankees and a trip to the White Sox. That's
Can't
a pretty
do it.
good setup for Reese Olson. I didn't put Tarek Skubal because I think he's an auto.
Yeah.
But what about Reese Olson, Nick? Are you starting Reese Olson anywhere?
He's what I call a young gun, who's a guy
Okay.
that I think actually over time can get more experience and become more consistent and be something to consider next year. Changeup isn't there yet. When it is on, it's lovely. He has a very good slider. If Reese Olson throws enough 4-seamers and sinkers inside, then this can actually work. But
Problem
against the
is-
Yankees and White Sox is not the worst. Way better than Kopech. Way better than Kopech.
Agreed.
But not someone I would feel confident doing.
Jameson Taillon or Kopech?
Taillon.
Taijuan.
Okay, just making sure that we were there. I thought we were. But yeah, Reese Olson, anything to add, Nick? They're fighting, guys. They're fighting, mumbling on.
He's Taillon.
This is like
Taillon.
This is like the most fun yet weirdly awkward.
Oh, if I knew where my cell phone
Recording
was, I would call him
situation.
about Caleb Smith right now.
Oh,
That'd be so funny if you called him right next to him. All right, so Reese Olson, we're going with you co-sign that, Nick?
Yeah.
I mean Justin.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's-
Wade Miley, crusty old Wade Miley gets stripped to the Cubs and home to Philly. I like Wade Miley, man. He's in that kind of
Kopech.
Merrill Kelly type old guys that do well. I'm starting him in 15s. I'm considering him in 12s. You probably can find better in 10s, but I like Wade Miley. I'm starting him in 12s and 15s.
Yeah.
What
I
about you,
agree.
Justin?
Yeah. It's okay matchups, and he's just that old crusty guy that seems to get it done.
80
so.
pitches though is what you might see.
True. He's been in that 80 to 90 range pretty
Versus
tight. So
Philly, it might be a problem because Philly likes
Hell,
to walk a lot, and they're
well,
starting to get their
even the
bats
Cubs
going,
are
too.
tough, but I'm still rolling with them in 15s for
Actually,
sure.
I might pass in.
In 12s? The thing is, you just gotta ask yourself, okay, do I buy that Wade Miley is gonna
Made Wiley.
Made Wiley is going to throw changeups enough and be able to do that against the Phillies? Because he's a 4-seamer cutter guy. He's gonna try and just inside all day to right-handers. It's just about, okay, is he going to get that cutter in a way against lefties? Is he going to be able to get the changeup against righties, right?
At least some of the best hitters are lefties for Philly, so maybe that helps.
Yeah, it's one of those things of we can say it's going to be great, it's going to be weird. It's like I don't know what he's going to do in that day, so I hope it's going to work.
It's hard to know, but I'm starting him 15s for sure. 12s you don't have to, right? It's not a guaranteed start Wade Miley, but if you land on him, I think it's okay. But you could probably find something a bit more savory there than Wade Miley in 12s. But keep him. I think he's a team streamer. Taijuan Walker is kind of a right-handed Wade Miley type, to be honest, in terms of just baseline expectations. He gets the Angels and then a trip to Milwaukee, which he might be facing Wade Miley then. So what about Taijuan Walker?
I mean, with Walker, it's so weird. He had 90.6 on his fastball. So the Phillies were like, yo, we're not going to let you start next time. We have a 6-man anyway. So let's just kind of wait a week.
Him.
And they skipped him, and then he came back. I mean, his 4-seamer across 10 of them averaged 93, but his sinker was like 91 and change. And I am super terrified because I don't think with a guy like Walker in this way that you have that start and then you get better in the next one. I feel like that was them saving up for a good start, and then it's going to get worse.
Like charging up his energy.
Right.
Like
and
a
then
video
it's
game
like
character.
wasted, 100%. So I don't like this at all. At the same time, the Angels don't have Trout. The Angels are Ohtani. What's going on? They've been an atrocity of an offense.
Mm-hmm.
The Brewers are not someone to be terrified of. It's a decent win chance, and Taijuan magic exists. So I feel like you got to do it. It's
I agree
just
with all that.
my whole essence is just
get the Tums in order when you start Taijuan. I love Taijuan. I always have to divorce my heart from my head with him. He's just a player I root for and I really like. He seems like a good dude too. He's a video game nerd and all that. So that doesn't do me anything for fantasy though. I can't say he's a cool guy, so give me a win. So I got to divorce the two things there, and it can be tough because I want to start him and he has good starts, but his skills are always modest. So yeah, I agree with everything Nick said. If you're win chasing, you can go for it, but be careful. Justin, anything to add on Taijuan Walker before we move on to your guy?
Just that by the time Walker gets to face the Angels, that may be one of the worst lineups in baseball.
Oh my God, especially if Ohtani isn't playing.
Which is crazy how much we were avoiding the Angels in streaming earlier.
Because they were great.
Season. Yeah.
When they had both, they were great. And even when they first lost Trout, they stayed good. But yes, they have now come down. Because in fairness, they haven't just lost Trout, right? Everyone acts like, oh, it's just Trout and Ohtani. No, they had like 50 injuries, dude. Like they lost Neto, they lost Crone, Rendon, Urshela, Taylor Ward, right? So it's like, it's not, I think people just think it's Trout's gone now and that's why they're bad. No, it's because they really decimated their lineup.
Did you see the tweet about
Tungsten Armo Doyle? Yeah.
No, is it Chanel? How do you pronounce his name?
Shanwell.
Shanwell has a higher WAR this season than Anthony Rendon.
Oh my God, I believe it because all he's done is come up and just take walks.
Yeah.
He has a 27% walk rate and an 8% K rate. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
call him ShamWow. I'm with that. Nolan ShamWow has a 538 OBP. I believe though.
Everyone's gonna love that one.
His 0.2 WAR is better than Anthony Rendon's. I believe it. I mentioned we're going to your guy Justin because it's your Giants. Alex Cobb, Cincy, and a trip to San Diego. We talked about the defense earlier. Nick highlighted how devastating it is. Cobb usually takes the brunt of it over these past couple of years, to be honest. 336 and 333 BABIPs the last 2 years, and that has really hurt his whip. But the ERA staying steady, 373 last year, 374 this year. Decent win chance because y'all are not a terrible team, although I don't trust that offense. But Alex Cobb, any viability beyond 15s? Because I think in 15s you can do it, but what about 12s and lower?
If you had asked me last week, I would have told you no, that he hadn't looked right for a few starts. Most recent start, he looked like the Alex Cobb we've kind of gotten to know over the course of the last couple seasons. So I'm actually inclined to roll him out in 10s and 12s. But
Cobb or Miley?
Cobb.
Nick?
We've seen 10 games of Alex Cobb since returning from the IL. 10 of them. Okay, I'm going to pull the earbud out as I lean away from Justin. We've seen 2 of those games where he's had a splitter. Just 2. And fortunately, it was the last one, right? That was good. But we also saw another time against the Oakland Athletics where he had it. And that was the 9 strikeout game on July 25th. In these 10 starts, 4.7 ERA with a 138 whip and an 18% K rate. So and it's a splitter too, right? Like, you know me and splitters. They're volatile.
I was going to say, huge surprise that you're highlighting the splitter volatility.
Oh, gosh. And it's just, how much do I want to really buy into one game of a splitter being back, right? And it's possible. We've seen Alex Cobb has been immune to the whole splitter volatility over the years. But to see how much we've dealt with it over the past 10 games since coming back from the IL is startling, to say the least. I'm going to go with Wade Miley because of this.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, I think it's possible. I think Cobb's on the list. I just trust Miley a little bit more. And I do worry about the defense. And Cincy San Diego is not easy. Like both of those teams, like Cincy's in a little bit of a cold spell after they were crazy hot for a while.
It's Cincy in San Francisco and it's San Diego in San Diego. True. Both great places to pitch. And so I'm more, if we were talking about one of the starts being in Cincinnati, I'd probably say I'll go Miley and just kind of skip that one. But being in San Francisco, in San Diego, I think are two pretty good locations to take the gamble there.
I think that's completely fair. Hang on to that mic there because we're going to end with a guy who I also associate you with because you were a big Josiah Gray fan coming into the season. And it looked pretty good coming in, for a while. And I will say the composite right now, you still got to feel good about a sub-4 ERA, 385 with 7 wins, 118 Ks in 136 innings. He has sacrificed some Ks to try to help that command, and it has helped. 2.3 homer 9 down to 1.2 is a massive, massive improvement. Some would even say it's damn near cut in half. That's great, but the 146 whip is pretty ugly, and he doesn't have as many wins and strikeouts as Charlie Morton to make up for such a whip. He gets a trip to Toronto and then hosts Miami. Are you starting your boy Josiah Gray on the heels of a solid start against the Yankees, but he did walk 5?
I'm trying to bring up real quick, and it's hard to do because we're sharing earbuds.
It's so great.
To use my other computer, so I'm trying to see where I put him in my 2-start article.
We're not even in. We're like the first 4 tiers, and he's already like, no.
And there's only 5 tiers, which means
so that's gonna be. Seems like
put him in the desperate measures.
Literally the last one.
He's literally the last guy on my list.
Okay.
So those aren't in order.
I know,
of like.
Can't because
so if Justin doesn't like him. then I
Yeah.
don't know how many other people are going to get. And I say that because, again, this is one of your guys.
It's so many walks, and
At
so
least not so
little
many
win,
homers.
so little win potential in Washington.
Yeah.
I just think that it's really hard to do. I mean, obviously, 15-team leagues, you're probably rolling with them because there aren't very many options, like we've said with a number of these guys. But I think you can find a better guy in 10s and 12s. I think I do Wade Miley over him.
Yeah, I think so
I
too.
like that that's become the barometer of.
I know. Well,
whether
in
or
those
not-
shallow formats, I do think he is a fair barometer.
What was
Did you
the line
swim?
on the old
Wandy
fantasy
line.
book? The Wandy
The Wandy
line.
for Wandy
it's
Rodriguez.
now the Miley line.
The Miley
no.
line. Well,
Do you
What'd you say?
swim? Do you wade? Or do you tan?
I like that. I like that a lot.
ooh, that is pretty good. Nick, can I get some thoughts from you on Josiah Gray for next year? These improvements that we've seen with the home run rate. What's the next step? Is there a
Stop
path
giving him a
to?
million home runs.
Is there a path
but-
to improving the walk
See,
rate?
Steve, you're talking about it on like the walks and the home runs. I'm like, what is it with this repertoire? What is he gonna be?
What did
Right?
you say
Yeah.
last
No, I'm
night
asking
at
you
dinner
that.
about Blake Snell.
Oh, that was a cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mistake rate was weird, and he's got to throw more strikes. But that's like I'm talking about the individual pitches. He's got to throw more strikes. It's four-seamer. It's a 59% strike rate, which is 7th
This is
percentile.
Blake
in the
Snell we're
meters.
talking about.
No. This is Josiah Gray.
Oh, okay. Now,
Blake
now
Snell
we're back
throws
on.
like the fewest mistakes of any pitcher in the majors, which is the funniest thing to me. He's just got to throw more over the zone to limit the walks because he doesn't allow hits. Anyway,
Mhm.
these are the fun conversations, of course, Justin and Mason and I have over dinner. That's just, duh. Life, no. Only baseball all the time. Okay.
That's right.
Sliders have been the thing for Josiah Gray, right? 32% usage this entire year, but it's below average in strike rate. And I think that's an important thing to note because a lot of times you see these lower strike rates on sliders when they aren't the primary pitch for them. They're saving them. They're throwing them more in 2-strike counts, all that kind of stuff.
Spiking them.
Right. And Josiah Gray needs to have a more reliable strike pitch. He doesn't have one. He's trying to find one. Maybe it's the cutter you want to say, but it's a 23% CSW pitch, that cutter. 34%
Mhm.
34th percentile hard contact on it. Like, that's not enough. The curveball, oh no, 56% strike rate. And when I see a strike rate, I need to see a pitch that's like 65% plus.
Yeah.
That has success, right? And he doesn't have that. So he's actually tried to move more to sinkers. And Josiah Gray gets that strike rate high on that, but it's an O swing of 23%. And when it comes to sinkers, I need to see if I think like this is a great sinker, that means that you're throwing it to the same handedness inside off the plate. The best one, the barometer of that, like the elite is Zach Wheeler's, which is like 50% sometimes. And just how do you do this is amazing. But a lot of the guys that have fantastic ones, also Pablo Lopez is doing that this year. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Justin Mason. Has like 40% O swing on a sinker out of nowhere, right? He just added that skill. It's 23% for Josiah Gray. This is not that pitch. So I don't see the real path here outside of the slider. All of a sudden becomes a massive strike pitch. The four-seamer is saved just for 2 strikes to go up in the zone, which it can do and get swing strikes on. Then the cutter needs to be better. The curveball needs to be more consistent. There are too many things for him to figure out, and he's still battling all of these things right now. Like the ratios, I'm fine. Whatever, he has a better ERA in this stretch. None of it to me is like, oh no, it's because he's a better pitcher now and he's found a groove or something. It's still him just trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I think that all makes a lot of sense with Josiah Gray. You can take some solace in the home run rate drop, but not enough has come around it to really see it as a huge building block for the future. The next development step isn't obvious right now. It'd have to be something that we see in spring where he changed his changeup, he added a pitch, he changed a pitch, et cetera, et cetera. Something like that has to come through for Josiah Gray right now to really get excited about him for next year.
Steve, what happens, Justin, when you go to a different site to look up things about a pitcher, the quick analysis you can have?
This pitcher list site is pretty cool.
That's why I use it every episode.
Yeah, you should totally check it out if you've never been to pitcherlist.com.
There you go. There it is. I'm just trying to help you, Justin.
You got to check that sucker out. It's great.
Trying to help
Yeah, that's it for our 2 steps there. If anybody has a question about somebody that we didn't cover, the rest are either obviously yes or obviously no for the most part. That's why they weren't included. I don't need, Nick and Justin to break down if we're starting Zach Gallen and things like that. So what's on tap for the weekend, guys?
Starting Zach Gallen.
Gallon gals for life.
Good to know. I am a Gallen gal and a boy. When's the wedding, Nick?
It's Saturday afternoon.
So then what do you guys got planned for today?
Oh, we're going to the Giants game. Oh yeah,
Who are you watching pitch?
Spencer Strider.
Logan Webb.
Oh my gosh, I'm so
I don't
jealous.
think Webb is pitching actually.
No, really? Did he?
double check.
I think
think
he
he
is.
is.
Yeah, you're getting
Ooh,
Webb
that'll be
Strider.
awesome.
They asked him
Oh
to pitch for us.
my god,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I
We're
am
gonna
super
be there
jealous
with
of that.
Doug Thorburn and
Sammy
Bubba
Reed.
Entrikin and Sammy Reed,
Jake Crumpler,
Jake Crumpler,
Eno Saris.
Saris.
If you guys are there
Danielle
at the game,
Salinger.
oh, of course Danielle.
Yeah.
If you guys are there, just
You know how jealous
DM
I
us,
am.
and then we'll
This-
meet up. We'll find you. That'd be great.
By the way, the only downside of you guys going to this is you're going to miss an amazing slate. There are a lot of good matchups. This is the nightcap. I'm obviously going to a concert tonight too, so I'm going to miss it
Who
as
you
well.
seeing?
JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown.
Oh, nice.
I have no idea who.
Yeah,
those
I
people are.
was just going to validate him.
That's not surprising, but I
don't know
appreciate
either.
you. I appreciate you pretending like you knew who they were, Nick.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you very
got you.
much.
Yeah, have a good time.
But yeah, you got Hunter Greene, Brandon Fott, nice little battle of youngsters there. You Darvish, Brandon Woodruff, Lance Cutter Crawford, Dane Dunning, Sonny Gray, Brady Singer, Bryce Miller. You know, they're not all aces, but
Yeah,
like really intriguing matchups.
No
Tanner
Cole
Bybee,
Reagans,
Chris
though.
Bassett. No Cole Reagans, unfortunately. But yeah, lots of fun guys. My boy Christopher Sanchez going today. My NL version of Cole Reagans. So yeah. Anyway, lots of great stuff going on. I hope you guys have a great time at the Giants game. Enjoy the wedding as well.
Thank you.
Justin, anything going on Sunday?
No, because I think I'm driving Nick to the airport.
That makes
I'm
total
outta here.
sense.
I'm going to
All
LA
right, then-
now. So
Then
Gonna
you
wa-
and I will be back on Monday. Wait, you're going to LA after this?
yeah, I gotta go to the Dodgers game. I gotta see people. We're having a meetup next Saturday, so should be fun.
Wait, so you're on a West Coast trip?
Yeah, I never come out here, so I'm taking advantage of it. You know, and
That's
I'm
sick.
like, look at this shack. This is the best time ever.
No, I mean this is fantastic. I that said though, do you also prefer catcher list? I see the sign back there. It says,
Oh, I know.
prefer
This
catcher
is Justin's. I actually have that exact same thing. It's so annoying to swap the letters, so I just
He
stopped
does it
doing
every episode though, so suck it up and
like,
just
that
change
is
it.
determination, guys. I initially
is.
had it, and it's really annoying. I don't. That is not where Alex Fast is going.
You cannot see this because it's on the other side of the camera, but Nick left me a note on my whiteboard that says Caleb Smith is good.
Yeah, I got you.
True.
I didn't leave this.
I've actually never seen
I've never
the whole setup.
Yeah, Nick is the only person who's from the industry that's ever
I
been
am
in my
been
office.
in the shack.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now I'm jealous though. This is kind of a relationship quarrel here. We're going to end on a negative note because I'm very jealous right now. And I'm
This is
upset that I'm
positive.
being
No,
cheated
this is-
on.
It means if you're jealous, it means
This
there's
is-
a lot of love.
This is
Are
the
we in a
podcast
throuple?
threesome you always wanted.
Yeah, we're in a throuple now. That sounds
Yeah.
great. All right, guys. Well, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And Nick, thank you so much for being on with us. Justin, I
so
will
much for
talk to
having me,
you
guys.
on Monday.
Take it easy.